most beautiful thing I've ever seen. They're shoving in my home. Man, I don't want them alone. Yes, Lord.
Hey guys, it's the Pink King here. And we need to talk about something. Ever since my first two Primeval videos, I've been seeing you guys in the comments talking about how much you love the show and whatnot. However, one thing I've noticed was you guys asking me to cover a show that predated Primeval. Possibly the reason why shows like Primeval even existed. And also something that would go on to do the impossible. Yes, I'm talking about Walking with Dinosaurs.
Who did I find it most difficult to work with? Animators. Definitely animators. You know, chase this dinosaur, chase that dinosaur. You'd swear we couldn't act. It's so degrading.
Now, if you're a fan of my channel, then you're definitely not new to this series. But just for a little refresher, released in 1999, created by Tim Haynes and produced by the BBC, Walking with Dinosaurs was a revolutionary dinosaur documentary that went from the start to the end of the dinosaurs, showing off these incredible creatures, not like monsters as Hollywood has, but instead more like real breathing animals. Now, considering how niche of a genre dinosaur documentaries are, you'd think a show like this would eventually fade from public consciousness, especially considering just how old this series is. But despite that, it has remained possibly the most culturally significant and well-remembered documentaries, period. Now, I know saying that sounds a little hard to believe, ridiculous even. However, you have to remember that this was the 90s. Nothing like Walking had ever existed at that point. You had documentaries, even dinosaur documentaries, but none had ever had this ground of a scale and ambition. After all, it's one thing to film real-world animals, but it's another to film fake ones and make them feel real. First, I want to talk about my connection with this show and its successors. I've always been obsessed with dinosaurs for a long time now, for as long as I've been alive. And I was at an age where I didn't really understand the internet or TV that much, but I did know DVDs, and among them, I had this box set that came with like 5 discs, 3 Nigel Marven specials, The Giant Claw, Land of the Giants, and Sea Monsters, and then there was Big Al. Then, of course, we had Walking with Dinosaurs. And as a young kid, these would be discs I would constantly replay over and over again. It made education not only interesting, but fun to watch, and managed to make me at a young age not only respect paleontology, but nature itself for how beautiful it is and was. I tell you what, there was nothing better than watching a Nigel Marven special on a Saturday morning while eating some nice cookies. So yeah, as you can tell, I had a fondness for this series. However, there is the possibility of being blinded by nostalgia here, so I had that in mind while rewatching this series, and I gotta say, this show, despite all the years, holds up extremely well. Yes, the science has changed a lot since this documentary, and a lot of what we knew back then is now outdated, but despite the inaccuracies, it's still just as gripping and fascinating as when I first watched this series as a kid. And for a documentary, that's not only impressive, but almost unheard of, considering the main point of a documentary is to record events to as much accuracy as possible. Now, the reason why I mention this is because this actually is one of the many reasons for my point, being that Walking with Dinosaurs did the impossible. I'm not kidding. This show did many things no other piece of programming has done in a long time. That being, it revolutionized the genre, did something never before seen, and managed to bring life to something that hasn't existed in millions of years. How, you ask? Well, allow me to elaborate. First, let's start with how the show revolutionized the genre of not only dinosaur documentaries, but documentaries as a whole. Now, nature documentaries, they're nothing new. But dinosaur ones were a much bigger gamble compared to normal nature ones, because before Walking, there was only 2 types of dinosaur documentaries, either ones that featured the science only, or the ones that briefly featured dinosaurs and science, either through little animation or stop motion. But it was very brief, and thus was sort of holding the genre back. But a little film came out that changed everything. You might have heard of it, I don't know, it's a very small film, you know, just something called Jurassic Park. The film that proved you could make CGI dinosaurs work. Now, suddenly, there was a new way to bring these creatures to life. So Walking with Dinosaurs took similar principles to Jurassic Park, that being using a mix of practical and visual effects in order to bring these things to life, evolving the genre beyond what was possible just a few years ago. But good VFX, they're nothing without a good story. After all, it's the story that gets people invested in shows and documentaries. And this show was really good at doing that. They played with the environments, changing the settings, the seasons, and even went beyond that, with them going to under the ocean and above the clouds. They really went all out with the environment. Not only was this fresh, but its variety helped to make these creatures feel truly massive. And that's one reason why I feel documentaries like When Dinosaurs Roamed America or Dinosaur Planet fall flat a bit, because their environments look too similar and are far too boring that it doesn't make these worlds feel lived in or massive, just like the dinosaurs themselves. And that's what Walking with Dinosaurs was so good at, because not only was it good at making these creatures feel real, but make the world that they live in interesting and different, almost like the world itself is a character. And this brings me to the biggest reason why this series works. It makes these dinosaurs feel alive. Whether big or small, herbivore or carnivore, each dinosaur here is unique and feels like a real animal because of one thing in particular: realism. These creatures are not just savage brutes that go around eating everything they can find, but are rather animals. You'll see them hunt, of course, but you'll also see them sleep, play, explore, mate, have families, and so many things that a real animal would do. So not only does this truly make these creatures feel lifelike, but also adds character to them, so much that you don't need narration to understand what's going on. And the narration here is fantastic, by the way. Kenneth Branagh brings such a whimsical yet charming feeling to this show that is so inviting. It's like listening to Morgan Freeman. It doesn't matter what he says, you'll listen to it either way. If I had to point out any issues with this show, it mainly comes from certain points, like certain effects may not look as good as others, especially for the time, and even some strange inaccuracies that were well known even back then, like the T-Rex and the whole Cretaceous episode, but I feel its overall quality more than makes up for all these shortcomings. So yeah, there's a lot here to love. Not only was it a true marvel, but managed to evolve its medium and genre in ways that make it possible for us to have stuff like Primeval or even Prehistoric Planet Now. Maybe one day I'll talk about each episode of the show individually. In fact, type in the comments, would you like to see me do that? Review each episode of this show individually? Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested in your opinions on this. Also, while you're down there, feel free to comment what you thought of the show in general. Did you love it, or was it missing something? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe. My goal is to get to 5,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and we are just so close to doing that. But with your help, we can definitely reach that. Subscribe right now, it's completely free, and you help me out so much, and it lets me know that you guys really want more videos like this. And with that, I will see you all next time.